Today I'm going to talk to you about what happens on closing day, and I'm going to get started right now. Hey everyone, my name's Jamey Prezzi. I'm a real estate agent in Miami-Dade and Broward counties, and today I'm going to talk to you about what happens on the closing day. But first, before I get started, if this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button so you never miss another update. We do put out new videos every week. Also, use the link in our information box and download all of our guides today. Bookmark that page after you register because I do update it all the time. Okay, let's get started. So there are a lot of misconceptions about what happens on the day of closing. I've had very good closings and I've had very bad closings. And unfortunately, lately, we are finding that sometimes sellers are not leaving the properties in the condition that they're supposed to leave the properties. And you know what happens. So let's talk a little bit about setting those expectations for the closing day so you know what to expect. So let's first start with the seller side, because we've had a few issues lately with sellers not turning over properties as they're supposed to be turning them over. When you're selling a home and it's the closing day, the property needs to be emptied out of all of the furniture by the first thing in the morning. Because many buyers are traveling here from other places, or they have plans. They may even have movers coming in towards the end of the day, or contractors coming in towards the end of the day. They want the keys on the day that they close. So if you're still moving out furniture and still cleaning the property in the morning, it is going to be very hard for them to do a walkthrough, which most buyers will want to do before they close. So make sure all the stuff, just to make things easier for you and the buyers and not create a lot of headaches for yourself, make sure the property is clean and everything is out of the property. Unless they have told you that they want that couch in the back storage room, remove it. Make sure everything is out. Don't leave all your old junk. Sometimes sellers think that they're doing buyers a favor and they'll leave paint and old tiles and all kinds of junk. Honestly, they may think it's nice, but sometimes people don't think it's nice. They might be painting the house a completely different color than you have it right now. They may not want your old paint to dispose of. So if you have any questions, ask, and always refer to your sales contract, because your contract says what is supposed to stay and what is supposed to go. If you leave a bunch of junk behind, you can put yourself in a very precarious situation, because they may hold back money at escrow to deal with those issues. I've had situations where sellers have left a bunch of junk on the street and code compliance comes by just right when we're about to close and sees all the junk on the street, and then they fine you, and that creates another issue for closing. So please, just make sure that the property is turned over as you would want it turned over, clean and without any extra junk. Also, don't be taking things that you're not supposed to take. If you're not sure, ask your real estate attorney and refer to your real estate contract and read what you're allowed to take. Sometimes people start taking a lot of things that they're not supposed to take. Generally speaking, anything that's attached is supposed to stay. So if you want to take the blinds, you need to make sure you put that on the contract. You cannot be taking down blinds, and you're not supposed to be removing curtain rods and light fixtures and other things, and taking out appliances and replacing them with cheaper appliances. Be very, very careful, because again, it can put you in a situation where you're creating a default in the contract on your side, and they can also hold back money at escrow so that those things are resolved after closing, and it can just create an issue with closing. So I've had these things happen recently, and it's been a big booger, and it's created a huge situation for sellers when they're not turning over the properties correctly. Also, leave the keys, please, because people would like to get into the property. And if it's a condominium, make sure you're leaving garage clickers and fobs and mailbox keys. I mean, the mailbox keys, come on. So if you're a seller, please make sure you refer to your contract And please have the movers come before the day of closing. Make sure that property is in good condition on the day of closing. So if you're a buyer, you probably just heard everything I said before and now you're freaking out. And sometimes there are freak out situations. I would say 99% of the time it's okay, everything works out and properties are turned over correctly. But there are some off times when people don't do what they're supposed to do. So it's good to just set proper expectations so everyone knows what to expect. Let's talk more about what buyers should expect on closing day now. So before the closing day, you're going to want to know how much money to wire over to finish the transaction so that money is sitting in an escrow account. We can talk about that separately. Also, it's very important that you make sure that you set your expectations correctly for that day. Typically, I would not expect to do an early closing unless there's some very unique situation and everything's happened very early. Generally speaking, especially if you're getting financing, closings happen typically later in the day, and I'll explain to you what happens. So let's assume that on the day of closing, you go to do your final walkthrough and everything looks great, which I do recommend to do a walkthrough. Even for our buyers who are not here in person, I always make sure that we do a walkthrough for them and send them the video or do a FaceTime. So we just want to make sure that the property is in the same condition and as in the condition that's promised by the sales contract. Next, after the walkthrough is, and I don't like to typically do walkthroughs the night before because sometimes the night before things can start to disappear and then you have another situation. So I prefer that you do the walkthrough on the day of closing. After we do the walkthrough, assuming that you're getting financing, cash is a little bit different, a little bit easier. You can sign wire funds, do the walkthrough, and just wait. But let's assume that you have to go sign some loan documents. So after you do the walkthrough, then you'll go sign all of the loan documents. And at the same time, probably the seller is somewhere signing their documents if it's not already done before in advance. And then those documents have to get couriered over to your title company. Your documents have to get signed, and then the title attorney or title company, they take those documents, they send them over to the bank. And then once the bank approves, they authorize release of funds to the seller and to distribute funds. So it's not like you just sign, bam, here's the key, like you see on a lot of the TV shows. There's a bit of a process that has to happen before you get the keys, and the funds have to be sent over to the seller's side, and they need to be able to verify that those funds are sent. Long, deep discussion about that. But generally speaking, there's a few things that have to happen on the seller side, the buyer side, and if you're getting financing with the bank. I always tell our buyers, don't plan on moving the same day that you close because there can be delays, especially if you're closing late on a Friday and all of a sudden the bank's closed. You may not get the keys until Monday. I've never had that happen, but it can happen, and I've heard that it happens. So all these little things have to happen in order for you to get the keys. The biggest thing is just to have proper expectations. Unfortunately, sometimes sellers don't turn over the properties correctly, and we have to just find a way to work through that situation. And sometimes the closings are very late in the day, which can create a little bit of a delay in terms of getting the keys. You may sign in the morning, but you may not get the keys until really late in that afternoon. So just don't plan for movers and contractors and a lot of activities for actions where you need the keys on the day of closing. Wait. There are a lot of moving parts that happen when you go to close on a property here. We're always here to be a resource for you and answer all of those questions about the closing day so you know what to expect. And sellers, please, make some plans, move out earlier, have everything nice so that people are taking over your property with a good karma and good faith, and you create a really nice situation just as you would want for yourself. If you have more questions, we're always here to be a resource for you, and we will see you soon.